The alarm bells echoed through the command center of Station Alpha 7, the most advanced monitoring post on the edge of the Galactic Empire. Lieutenant Vexara stared at her screen, her blue skin turning a pale shade of confusion. The readings made no sense. "Commander Zalthus, you need to see this," she called out, her voice tight with worry. Commander Zalthus walked over, his tall frame casting a shadow over the control station. His species, the Kethamori, were known for their calm thinking and sharp minds. That's why the Empire put them in charge of border security. But even his steady nerves felt shaken by what he saw on the screen. "What am I looking at, Lieutenant?" "A ship, sir, coming from the void between galaxies." "But, sir, it doesn't match anything in our database." Zalthus frowned. The Empire had been around for over 10,000 years. They had records of every known species, every ship design, every type of technology used by the 3 million civilizations under Imperial rule. Their database was perfect. It had to be. "Run the scan again, check for system errors." "Already done, sir, 3 times. The ship is real, and it's like nothing we've ever seen." On the main screen, the mysterious vessel appeared as a small dot against the black of space. But as the sensors focused on it, details began to show. The ship was strange in every way. Its hull looked rough and simple, made from what appeared to be basic metals. Steel, maybe. Some kind of ceramic coating. Materials that most civilizations had stopped using thousands of years ago. "How big is it?" Zalthus asked. "About 800 meters long, sir. Small by our standards, but the energy readings are unusual." "Define unusual." Lieutenant Vexara pulled up another screen. Numbers and graphs filled the display, all of them showing readings that should have been impossible. "Sir, this ship is putting out more energy than our entire space station, but it's doing it quietly. The energy isn't coming from fusion reactors or antimatter cores. It's something else entirely." Zalthus felt a cold chill run through him. In all his years of service, he had never encountered anything the Empire couldn't explain. The Empire was the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. They had to be. "Send a message to Admiral Kethvar. Tell him we have a situation." "Already sent, sir. He's on his way with the 4th Fleet." The mysterious ship continued its slow approach toward Imperial space. It wasn't trying to hide or sneak past their sensors. It just flew in a straight line, as if it had every right to be there. "Sir, incoming transmission from the unknown vessel." Zalthus straightened up. "Put it through." The communication came through in an ancient trade language that the Empire's computers hadn't heard in centuries. The voice was calm, speaking clearly and simply. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran vessel Wanderer. We are peaceful traders looking for safe passage through this region. Please respond if you can hear this message." The bridge fell silent. Lieutenant Vexara looked up at her commander with wide eyes. "Terran, sir? I've never heard of that species." "Neither have I." Zalthus turned to his communications officer. "Search the database for any reference to Terrans or Terra." The search took only seconds. The result was the same as always when dealing with the unknown ship. "No matches found, sir." Zalthus opened a channel to respond. He spoke in the same ancient trade language, though his pronunciation was rough from lack of practice. "Unknown vessel. This is Commander Zalthus of the Galactic Empire Border Station Alpha 7. You are entering Imperial space without proper documentation. Please state your planet of origin and purpose." The response came quickly, and this time the voice spoke in perfect modern galactic standard, as if the speaker had learned the language in seconds. "Thank you for the language update, Commander. I am Captain Sarah Chen from the planet Earth, also called Terra by some of our neighbors. We are explorers and traders. We mean no harm to anyone. I need to ask you to hold your position while we verify your credentials." "Of course, Commander. We'll wait right here." The transmission ended and Zalthus found himself staring at the screen again. Everything about this situation felt wrong. Ships from unknown civilizations didn't just appear from empty space. They didn't casually learn new languages in seconds. And they certainly didn't put out more energy than an Imperial space station while looking like they were built in someone's backyard workshop. "Lieutenant, I want a full deep scan of that vessel. Use everything we have." "Yes, sir." The scanning process took 20 minutes. When the results came back, they only made things more confusing. The ship's hull was indeed made from primitive materials. steel alloys that most species had stopped using when they first reached for the stars, but mixed in with the simple metals, were materials that the Empire's sensors couldn't identify at all. "Sir, look at this," Vexara said, pointing to a section of the scan results. "These readings suggest that parts of their hull exist in more than 3 dimensions. That's impossible." "I know, sir, but the math checks out. Somehow they've built a ship that's bigger on the inside than the outside. Not by much, but enough to notice if you're looking for it." Zalthus rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. "What about weapons?" "That's the strangest part, sir. No weapons that we can detect. No missile bays, no plasma cannons, no particle beams, nothing. How is that possible? No one travels through deep space without weapons. Pirates, space monsters, asteroid fields. You need something to protect yourself." "I know, sir, but according to our scans, they're completely unarmed." "Admiral," Kethvar's voice suddenly filled the bridge through the communication system. "Commander Zalthus, report. Admiral, we have an unknown vessel from a species calling themselves Terrans or humans. No record of them in our database. The ship appears to be made from primitive materials, but shows impossible energy readings and some kind of dimensional folding technology." "Impossible energy readings how?" "They're generating more power than our entire station, sir, but quietly. The energy signature doesn't match any known technology." There was a long pause before the Admiral responded. "I'm 2 hours away with 12 heavy cruisers. Keep that ship exactly where it is. Do not let it leave." "Understood, sir." Zalthus closed the channel and looked around his bridge. His crew was young but experienced. They had dealt with smugglers, pirates, and the occasional first contact situation with newly discovered species, but this was different. This felt dangerous in a way he couldn't explain. "Open a channel to the human ship." "Channel open, sir." "Captain Chen, this is Commander Zalthus again. We're going to need you to remain in your current position while we sort out your documentation. It shouldn't take long." "How long are we talking about, Commander?" "A few hours at most." There was a pause before the human captain replied. "Commander, we're on a schedule. We have trading appointments to keep in the Vega system. Can we speed this process up somehow?" "I'm afraid not, Captain. Imperial law requires all unknown vessels to undergo proper inspection before being granted passage." "I see. Well, we'll wait for now. But, Commander, I should mention that we have some experience with bureaucracy. We know how these things can drag on. We'll give you 4 hours. After that, we'll need to continue on our way." The transmission ended before Zalthus could respond. He stared at the communication panel in disbelief. The human had just given him an ultimatum. No one gave the Galactic Empire ultimatums. "Sir," Lieutenant Vexara said quietly, "should we lock a tractor beam on them? Make sure they can't leave?" Zalthus considered it. The station's tractor beam could hold most ships in place easily, but something about the human vessel made him hesitate. "Not yet. Let's see what Admiral Kethvar has to say when he arrives." The next 2 hours passed. Slowly. The human ship sat quietly in space, not moving, not scanning, just waiting. Occasionally, Captain Chen would send friendly messages asking about local trade regulations or the best routes to nearby systems. She seemed genuinely interested in doing business with the Empire. But the ship itself remained a mystery. Every scan revealed new impossibilities. The engines appeared to work without any kind of fuel. The life support systems were so efficient they barely registered on sensors, and deep inside the ship, there were spaces that their instruments couldn't map properly, as if parts of the vessel existed in dimensions their technology couldn't reach. When Admiral Kethvar finally arrived, he brought more than just 12 heavy cruisers. The Fourth Fleet was one of the Empire's finest, with ships that could level planets if necessary. Seeing them drop out of hyperspace in perfect formation was a sight that had made countless civilizations surrender without a fight. The human ship didn't react at all. "Commander, this is Admiral Kethvar. Brief me on the situation." Zalthus quickly explained everything they had learned about the mysterious vessel. The Admiral listened without interrupting, but his expression grew more serious with each detail. "So we have a ship from an unknown species using impossible technology, making polite demands about their schedule?" "That's correct, sir." "And they claim to be unarmed traders?" According to our scans, yes, sir. Admiral Kethvar looked at the human ship on his main screen. It looked so small compared to his battle fleet. So primitive and harmless. Something's not right here, Commander. In my experience, when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. I think these humans are more dangerous than they appear. What are your orders, sir? We're going to escort them to the nearest Imperial base for proper inspection, whether they want to go or not. The Admiral opened a channel to the human ship. Captain Chen, this is Admiral Kethvar of the Imperial 4th Fleet. You are ordered to accompany my ships to Imperial Base Omega-4 for security processing. This is not a request. The response came immediately, and Captain Chen's voice still sounded perfectly calm and friendly. Admiral, I appreciate your thoroughness, but we really do need to stick to our schedule. We've already waited the time we promised your commander. We'll be continuing on our way now. I'm afraid that's not possible, Captain. Imperial law supersedes your personal schedule. Admiral, I understand that you're just doing your job, but we're going to leave now. Please don't try to stop us. It would be better for everyone if you just let us go in peace. Admiral Kethvar felt his anger rising. The human was speaking to him like he was some kind of minor official instead of the commander of one of the Empire's most powerful fleets. Captain Chen, you are vastly outnumbered. I suggest you reconsider your position. Numbers aren't everything, Admiral, but I hope we don't have to prove that point. The transmission ended and the human ship began to move. It was time for the Empire to show these humans exactly who they were dealing with. Admiral Kethvar watched the human ship begin to move away from the Imperial fleet. The audacity was breathtaking. No one ignored the Galactic Empire. No one simply decided to leave when ordered to stay. Tactical lock tractor beams on the unknown vessel. Full power. Tractor beams locked and engaged, Admiral. Full power applied. On the main screen, energy beams reached out from 3 of the Empire's heavy cruisers. The beams were powerful enough to hold a moon in place, let alone a single small ship. The technology had been perfected over thousands of years and had never failed. The human ship continued moving. Tactical report. Sir, tractor beams are functioning normally, power output at maximum, but the target vessel is not responding to the gravitational fields. Admiral Kethvar stared at the screen in disbelief. That's impossible. Run a diagnostic on the tractor beam systems. Already running, sir. All systems are functioning perfectly. The small human ship continued on its course as if nothing was happening. It wasn't fighting against the tractor beams or somehow overpowering them. It was simply ignoring them the way a person might ignore a light breeze. Communications. Open a channel to the human ship. Channel open, Admiral. Captain. Chen, you need to stop your vessel immediately. You are under Imperial detention. The response came back with the same calm, friendly tone as before. Admiral, we told you we're leaving. Your tractor beams are interesting technology, but they won't work on our ship. Please call them off before someone gets hurt. Before someone gets hurt? Captain, you are one small ship facing the 4th Fleet of the Galactic Empire. You are in no position to make threats. Admiral, that wasn't a threat, it was friendly advice. Your tractor beam generators are working much harder than they're designed to. If you keep pushing them at maximum power while they're not affecting anything, you might damage them. Admiral Kethvar felt his face flush with anger. The human was actually giving him technical advice about his own ships. All ships, prepare to fire warning shots across the human vessel's path. Admiral? Commander Zalthus interrupted from Station Alpha 7. Perhaps we should try to understand their technology before taking aggressive action. Commander, I've been dealing with unknown threats for 30 years. This is a classic intimidation tactic. They want us to think they're more powerful than they are. A show of force will make them see reason. Kethvar turned back to his tactical officer. Fire warning shots. Plasma bursts only. I want them to see what they're up against. Yes, sir. All ships, prepare warning shots. The Imperial fleet opened, fire in perfect coordination. 12 heavy cruisers launched plasma bolts that lit up space like small suns. Each shot contained enough energy to vaporize a city block. The bolts streaked past the human ship, missing by only a few hundred meters. The Wanderer continued on its course without changing speed or direction. Captain Chen, those were warning shots. The next salvo won't miss. This time, there was a pause. before the human captain responded. When she spoke, her voice had lost some of its friendly warmth. "Admiral, that was very rude. We're peaceful traders and you just shot at us. We asked you nicely to let us go. We warned you that trying to stop us wouldn't work, and now you're firing weapons near our ship. Captain, you are in violation of Imperial law. Submit to escort or face the consequences. Admiral, I'm going to ask you one more time to let us pass peacefully. After that, I won't be asking any more." The transmission ended, and Admiral Kethvar felt a chill despite his anger. There had been something different in the human's voice, something that suggested she wasn't nearly as helpless as her small ship might indicate. But he was an admiral of the Galactic Empire. He had fought in dozens of battles against pirates, rebels, and hostile aliens. He had never backed down from a fight, and he wasn't going to start now. "All ships target the human vessel. Minimum power plasma bursts. I want to disable their engines, not destroy them. Sir, targeting the human vessel. Weapons ready. Fire." The Imperial fleet opened fire again, but this time the plasma bolts were aimed directly at the Wanderer. 12 streams of superheated energy converged on the small ship from multiple angles. There was no way to avoid them all. The plasma bolts hit their target perfectly, and absolutely nothing happened. The energy that should have disabled the human ship simply dissipated against their hull like water against a rock. The Wanderer continued flying as if it had been struck by gentle raindrops instead of weapons capable of melting through battle armor. Tactical report. Sir, all shots registered direct hits, but there's no damage to the target vessel, no energy, absorption, no deflection, no evidence of shielding. The plasma just disappeared. Admiral Kethvar felt the first real stab of fear. "What do you mean, disappeared?" "Sir, according to our sensors, the energy from our weapons simply ceased to exist when it touched their hull. It didn't bounce off or get absorbed, it just stopped being. This was beyond impossible. Energy couldn't just disappear. It had to go somewhere. It could be converted or redirected, but it couldn't simply vanish. Communications, get me Captain Chen. Channel open, Admiral. Captain, I need to know what kind of defensive technology you're using." The human captain's response was immediate, and her voice had turned completely cold. "Admiral, you just attacked a peaceful trading vessel without provocation. That's an act of war by any civilized standard. I'm not obligated to explain anything to you. Captain, I was trying to disable your engines, not destroy your ship. You were trying to force us to submit to your authority through violence. The fact that your weapons couldn't hurt us doesn't change your intent." Admiral Kethvar realized he was in uncharted territory. The Empire's entire diplomatic and military doctrine was based on overwhelming technological superiority. When they encountered a new species, they demonstrated their power, and the new species either joined the Empire or got conquered by it. It was simple, and it had worked for 10,000 years, but the humans weren't playing by those rules. "Captain Chen, perhaps we got off on the wrong foot. I'm willing to discuss safe passage through Imperial space if you're willing to share information about your technology. Admiral, 15 minutes ago we were willing to discuss anything you wanted, but you chose violence instead of conversation. Now we're just leaving. I can't allow that. Admiral, you can't stop it." The human ship began to accelerate, and Admiral Kethvar watched in growing alarm as it quickly reached speeds that should have been impossible without causing massive structural damage to the vessel. "All ships pursue the human vessel. Do not lose them." The Imperial fleet jumped to maximum speed, their powerful engines straining to keep up with the small human ship, but the Wanderer continued to pull away effortlessly. "Sir, the human ship is accelerating beyond our maximum pursuit speed. How fast are they going?" 0.7 light speed and still accelerating. At this rate, they'll reach light speed in less than 10 minutes. That's impossible without hyperspace engines. "I know, sir, but they're doing it anyway." Admiral Kethvar stared at the retreating human ship and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: helplessness. His fleet, one of the most powerful in the galaxy, was being outrun by a single small vessel that looked like it had been built with scrap metal. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human ship." "Put it through." Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge, still cold but no longer angry. "Admiral, I want you to understand something. We didn't want this confrontation. We tried to avoid it. We asked politely to be left alone. and you chose to use force instead of diplomacy. Captain, I was following standard Imperial procedure. Your standard procedure is the problem, Admiral. You assume that might makes right. You assume that bigger weapons mean you get to make all the decisions. But you're wrong. What are you saying? I'm saying that humanity learned a long time ago that there are more important things than who has the biggest guns. We learned that cooperation works better than domination. We learned that understanding is more powerful than fear. The human ship was now moving at 90% of light speed, far beyond anything the Imperial fleet could match. Captain, wait, don't leave. We can discuss this. Admiral, you had your chance to discuss this. Instead, you chose to shoot at us. That tells me everything I need to know about the Galactic Empire. What does it tell you? It tells me that you're afraid. You're so afraid of losing control that you attack anything you don't understand. That's not strength, Admiral. That's weakness. Admiral Kethvar felt stung by the accusation. We are not weak. The Galactic Empire is the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. Power isn't just about weapons, Admiral. Real power is having the strength to choose peace when you could choose war. It's being confident enough in yourself that you don't need to prove your superiority to everyone you meet. The human ship reached light speed and began to pull away even faster. In a few more minutes, it would be gone completely. Captain Chen, I need to ask you something. Go ahead. How many more ships like yours are out there? There was a long pause before the human captain answered, and when she did, Admiral Kethvar heard something in her voice that made his blood run cold. It wasn't anger or hatred. It was pity. Admiral, there are billions of humans scattered across thousands of ships. We've been exploring the galaxy for longer than your empire has existed. We've been watching civilizations rise and fall, helping when we can, staying hidden when we must. Watching us? Yes, Admiral. We've been watching the Galactic Empire for its entire history. We've seen it grow and expand and conquer. We've seen it bring order to chaos, but we've also seen it destroy cultures that didn't deserve to be destroyed. Admiral Kethvar felt the universe shifting around him. Why are you telling me this? Because your empire is about to face some difficult choices. You can continue down the path you're on, trying to control everything through force. Or you can learn to coexist with civilizations that you can't control. Are you threatening us? No. Admiral, we're offering to help, but only if you want help. Only if you're willing to admit that your way isn't the only way. The human ship was now moving faster than light, entering some kind of hyperspace that the Imperial sensors couldn't track. Captain Chen, how do I contact you if we want to talk? You don't contact us, Admiral. If we decide you're ready to talk, we'll contact you. The transmission ended, and the human ship vanished from Imperial sensors completely. Admiral Kethvar stood on his bridge, surrounded by the most advanced military technology in the known galaxy, and felt smaller than he had ever felt in his life. For the first time in Imperial history, they had encountered something they couldn't control, couldn't understand, and couldn't defeat, and it had treated them like children. The emergency session of the Imperial High Command was unlike anything in the Empire's 10,000-year history. Grand Admiral Thexamori stood before the assembled leaders of the most powerful civilization in the galaxy, and for the first time, in his long career, he had to deliver news of complete failure. The human ship escaped, he announced to the silent chamber. Admiral Kethvar's entire Fourth Fleet was unable to stop, damage, or even slow down a single vessel. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Representatives from hundreds of species began talking at once, their translator devices creating a cacophony of confusion and disbelief. Silence. The Emperor's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Emperor Zarthol was old, even by Imperial standards, having ruled for over 3 centuries. His species, the ancient Vorthak, were known for their wisdom and long lives, but even he looked shaken by the news. Grand Admiral, explain how this is possible. Thexamori activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images from the encounter with the human ship began to play for all to see. The vessel appeared from deep space with no advance warning. Our monitoring stations detected it, but couldn't identify its origin or technology. When Admiral Kethvar attempted to detain it for inspection, the ship proved immune to our tractor beams. The hologram showed the Imperial fleet firing their massive tractor beam arrays at the small human ship, which continued flying as if nothing was happening. When warning shots were fired, the ship was unaffected. When direct fire was used, our weapons had no effect whatsoever. The plasma bolt simply ceased to exist upon contact with their hull. The assembled leaders watched in stunned silence as the recording showed Imperial plasma cannons firing directly at the human vessel, only to have their energy disappear without any visible defensive systems. Finally, when the human ship decided to leave, it accelerated to faster-than-light speeds without using hyperspace technology. Our fastest ships couldn't even keep up. Supreme Marshal Volandra of the Imperial military stepped forward. Her species, the Kelthari, were the Empire's finest warriors and tacticians. Grand Admiral, what is your assessment of this threat? Marshal, based on what we observed, this single human ship could have destroyed Admiral Kethvar's entire fleet without effort. The fact that they chose not to suggests either mercy or contempt. A chill ran through the chamber at those words. The idea that someone might show mercy to the Galactic Empire was almost as disturbing as the idea that someone might hold it in contempt. What do we know about these humans? Asked Chancellor Morveth, the Empire's chief diplomat. Very little, Chancellor. They claim to be traders from a planet called Earth or Terra. They speak ancient trade languages and claim to be peaceful, but their technology is beyond anything in our database. Dr. Velandra, the Empire's leading xenoarchaeologist, stood up from her seat in the research section. She was a small, elderly creature from the scholarly Quileth species, known for their incredible memory and attention to detail. Your Majesty, I request permission to search the deepest archives. Something about this situation feels familiar. Emperor Zarthul nodded. Permission granted. Use whatever resources you need. The session was adjourned while Dr. Velandra and her team began their search through records that hadn't been accessed in thousands of years. The Empire's archives were vast, containing the collected knowledge of millions of civilizations across tens of thousands of years. 3 days later, Dr. Velandra requested another emergency session. When the High Command assembled again, she looked pale and shaken. Your Majesty, I found references to humans in our oldest records, but the information is disturbing. Explain. Dr. Velandra activated the archive display, showing ancient text in dozens of different languages. The earliest mentions of humans appear in pre-imperial records from over 50,000 years ago. They describe a species that achieved interstellar travel before any of our current member civilizations had even discovered fire. The chamber fell silent. 50,000 years was an almost incomprehensible length of time. It was longer than most species had existed, let alone achieved spaceflight. According to these records, humans were the first species to explore our galaxy systematically. They made contact with hundreds of primitive civilizations and helped many of them develop technology and space travel. What happened to them? Asked Supreme Marshal Volandra. That's where the records become strange. About 40,000 years ago, all mentions of humans simply stop. Not gradually, but all at once, as if they had never existed. The civilizations they had helped suddenly had no memory of them. Emperor Zarthul leaned forward in his throne. You're suggesting they were deliberately erased from history? Not erased, Your Majesty, withdrawn. According to the fragmentary records I found, humanity made a collective decision to step back from galactic civilization. They felt that their presence was preventing younger species from developing naturally. Grand Admiral Thexmori studied the ancient texts. So they've been hiding for 40,000 years? Not hiding, Grand Admiral. Watching. I found references in dozens of civilizations' mythology about mysterious benefactors who would appear during times of great crisis, provide help, then vanish again. The descriptions are remarkably consistent across species that had no contact with each other. Dr. Velandra brought up a new display showing mythological references from across the galaxy. The Altarians have legends of sky wanderers who saved them from a plague that would have destroyed their species. The Centauri speak of silent guardians, who prevented an asteroid from destroying their homeworld. The Vegan Confederacy has stories of peaceful warriors who stopped a war that would have made their system uninhabitable. You're saying humans have been secretly interfering in galactic history? Chancellor Morveth asked. Not interfering. Protecting. According to these records, humanity has prevented at least 17 galaxy-wide extinction events over the past 40,000 years. They've stopped supernovas from destroying inhabited systems, prevented wars that would have wiped out entire species, and helped civilizations survive disasters that would have ended them. The implications were staggering. The assembled leaders of the Galactic Empire realized they were looking at evidence that their entire civilization existed only because an unknown species had been quietly protecting it for millennia. Dr. Velandra, Emperor Zarthul said slowly, what else do the records say about human technology? The xenoarchaeologist hesitated before answering. Your Majesty, according to the oldest texts, human technology doesn't work the way ours does. While we've focused on building bigger and more powerful devices, humans appear to have learned to work with the fundamental forces of reality itself. Meaning what exactly? Meaning they don't need massive engines to travel faster than light, because they can convince space itself to cooperate with them. They don't need energy shields because they can persuade energy not to affect them. They don't need weapons because they can make matter do whatever they want it to do. Supreme Marshal Volandra shook her head. That sounds like magic, not technology. Marshal, any sufficiently advanced technology would seem like magic to us. But according to these records, humanity spent 30,000 years learning how to work with the universe instead of fighting against it. They developed sciences that we don't even have words for. Grand Admiral Thex Mori pulled up the tactical analysis of the encounter with the human ship. If this is true, then Captain Chen was showing incredible restraint during our confrontation. Restraint how? Asked the Emperor. Your Majesty, if humans can manipulate matter and energy at will, then that single ship could have destroyed our entire fleet instantly. Instead, they simply left. They didn't even damage our ships when we fired on them. The weight of that realization settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had attacked a peaceful trading vessel, and instead of retaliating, the humans had simply chosen to leave. There's more, Dr. Velandra continued. According to the deepest archives, humanity isn't just one species anymore. They've spent 40,000 years evolving and changing. Some records suggest they've transcended physical limitations entirely. What does that mean? Chancellor Morveth asked. It means they might not even need ships anymore. The vessel that Admiral Kethvar encountered might have been built specifically to interact with us, designed to look and act in ways we could understand. Emperor Zarthul stood up from his throne, a gesture that immediately commanded everyone's attention. I want to know how many human ships are in our space right now. I want to know what they want. And I want to know why they chose to reveal themselves now, after 40,000 years of hiding. Grand Admiral Thex Mori nodded. I'll deploy our best reconnaissance fleets to... No. The Emperor's voice was firm. We will not repeat Admiral Kethavar's mistake. We will not send warships to find the humans. Then how do we make contact? Your Majesty? Emperor Zarthul was quiet for a long moment, thinking. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of his centuries of experience. We wait. According to Dr. Velandra's research, humans have been watching us for our entire history. If they want to talk to us, they'll make contact when they're ready. And if they don't want to talk? Asked Supreme Marshal Volandra. The Emperor looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of 3 million civilizations, all united under the banner of the Galactic Empire. For 10,000 years they had been the supreme power in the galaxy. They had believed themselves to be the most advanced, the most powerful, the most important civilization that had ever existed. Now they knew better. If they don't want to talk, Emperor Zarthul said quietly, then we pray they continue to be as merciful as they've been so far. The session ended in silence, with each representative returning to their homeworld, carrying the knowledge that the Galactic Empire was no longer alone at the top of the galactic hierarchy. Somewhere out there, humanity was watching and waiting, with technology that made Imperial science look like cave paintings, and they had been there all along. 2 weeks after the emergency session, strange reports began coming in from across Imperial space. Ships were being scanned by unknown vessels that appeared and vanished before Imperial forces could respond. Deep space monitoring stations detected brief energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Most disturbing of all, several Imperial patrol fleets reported encountering ships that looked human but behaved in ways that defied all known physics. Emperor Zarthul stood in his private study, looking out at the capital city of Imperium Prime through a window that stretched from floor to ceiling. The city sprawled endlessly in all directions, home to over 2 billion beings from across the galaxy. It was a symbol of Imperial power and unity, representing 10,000 years of conquest and expansion. But now it felt fragile. "Your Majesty," came a voice from behind him. Dr. Velandra entered the study carrying a portable archive unit and looking more worried than he had ever seen her. "What have you found, Doctor?" "Sir, I've been studying the oldest records more carefully, and I've discovered something that changes everything we thought we knew about humans." Emperor Zarthul turned away from the window. "Show me." Dr. Velandra activated the archive unit and holographic text appeared in the air between them. The writing was in an ancient script that only a few scholars in the galaxy could still read. "This is from the personal journal of explorer Captain Mex Thule of the Vorthak Deep Space Survey, written over 55,000 years ago. Your Majesty." "This was written by one of your own ancestors." The Emperor's eyes widened. The Vorthak had the longest continuous civilization in the galaxy, and their records went back further than any other species. If Dr. Velandra had found something in his family's ancient archives, it was extremely significant. "What does it say?" "I'll translate. Today we encountered the strangers again. They call themselves humans, and they are unlike anything we have ever seen. Their ship is small and appears primitive, but it moves through space as if the laws of physics were merely suggestions. When we invited them aboard our vessel for trade negotiations, their ambassador walked through our airlock without a pressure suit. When we asked how this was possible, she smiled and said that matter is only as solid as you believe it to be." Dr. Velandra paused and looked up at the Emperor. "Sir, this was written over 50,000 years ago, but it sounds exactly like what happened to Admiral Kethavar. Continue reading." The human ambassador, who gave her name as Lisa Park, explained that her people had been exploring space for what she called a very long time. When we asked how long, she laughed and said, "That time was also more flexible than most species realized." She showed us star charts that included systems we had never seen, including some that appeared to be in other galaxies entirely. Emperor Zarthul felt a chill. Other galaxies. Even with all their advanced technology, the Empire had never seriously considered traveling beyond their own galaxy. The distances were simply too vast. She told us that humanity had made a discovery that changed everything for them. She said they had learned that the universe was not a machine to be conquered, but a living system to be understood and worked with. She said that once you stopped fighting the universe and started cooperating with it, almost anything became possible. What kind of discovery could do that? Dr. Velandra brought up another section of the ancient text. According to Captain Mexthal, the human ambassador tried to explain their science, but most of it was beyond Vorthak understanding at the time. However, she did say something interesting. She said that humans had learned to think in more dimensions than the 3 spatial dimensions that most species were limited to. More dimensions? Sir, she apparently demonstrated this by reaching into what looked like empty space and pulling out a flower. A living flower that she said came from her homeworld, which was thousands of light years away. When Captain Mexthal asked how this was possible, she said that distance was just another limitation that could be overcome with proper understanding. The Emperor sat down heavily in his chair. Dr. Velandra, are you telling me that humans have been able to manipulate space and time for over 50,000 years? Sir, according to this journal and others I've found, humanity achieved these abilities through what they called consciousness evolution. They didn't just develop better technology, They developed better ways of thinking about reality itself. Dr. Velandra activated another part of the archive. Listen to this entry from Captain Mexthel's final encounter with humans. Ambassador Park told us that her people had made a difficult decision. They were going to withdraw from contact with younger civilizations like ours. When I asked why, she explained that their presence was preventing us from growing and learning on our own. She said that every time they helped a species solve a problem, that species became dependent on human help instead of developing their own solutions. So they chose to disappear? Not disappear, Your Majesty. They chose to become guardians instead of teachers. Ambassador Park told Captain Mexthel that humanity would continue to watch over the galaxy, but they would only intervene in cases of absolute necessity. She said, they would prevent galaxy-wide disasters, but allow individual civilizations to make their own mistakes and learn from them. Emperor Zarthul stood up and walked back to the window. Outside, the city continued its busy life, completely unaware that everything they thought they knew about the galaxy had changed. Doctor, I need you to be completely honest with me. Based on everything you've discovered, what do you think humans are capable of? Dr. Velandra was quiet for a moment before answering. Your Majesty, based on the evidence, I believe humans can do essentially anything they want to do. They can travel instantly across any distance, manipulate matter and energy at will, and exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The only thing limiting them is their own choice to limit themselves. And why do they limit themselves? According to the records, because unlimited power corrupts. Humanity learned that the ability to do anything doesn't mean you should do everything. They chose restraint over domination, guidance over control. The Emperor was quiet for a long time, thinking about the implications. The Galactic Empire had been built on the principle that might makes right. The strongest species ruled, and everyone else followed or got conquered. It was simple, efficient, and had worked for 10,000 years. But humans had chosen a different path. Sir, Dr. Velandra said quietly, there's something else. I found evidence that humans have been watching us specifically. What do you mean? I mean the Imperial family, Your Majesty. The Vorthak. There are records going back thousands of years of mysterious figures appearing during times of crisis in Vorthak history. The descriptions all match humans, and they always provide just enough help to prevent disaster without solving the underlying problems. The Emperor felt the universe shift around him again. They've been protecting my people specifically? Sir, I think they've been protecting everyone. But the Vorthak have been around longer than most species, so we have more records of their interventions. I believe humanity has been quietly guarding every major civilization in the galaxy. A soft chime indicated that someone was requesting entry to the Emperor's study. Enter, he said. Grand Admiral Thexmori came in, looking grim. Your Majesty, we have a situation. What now? Sir, 3 hours ago, our deep space sensors detected over 1,000 ships entering Imperial space simultaneously. They appeared from nowhere with no hyperspace signatures or energy trails. Emperor Zarthul felt his blood run cold. Human ships? We believe so, sir. They're all different designs, but they share the same impossible energy signatures we detected from Captain Chen's vessel. And sir, they're not hiding. They want us to know they're there. Dr. Velandra looked up from her archive unit. Your Majesty, I think they've decided it's time to talk. Where are they now? The Emperor asked. Maintaining position at the edge of our space, sir. They're not approaching any inhabited systems, but they're clearly waiting for something. Emperor Zarthul made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Grand Admiral, I want you to send a message to all Imperial forces. No ships are to approach the human fleet. No weapons are to be aimed in their direction. No provocative actions of any kind. Sir, we tried force once and it failed completely. This time we're going to try something the Empire has never tried before. What's that, Your Majesty? Humility. The Emperor walked to his communication console and opened a direct channel to the Imperial Broadcasting Network, which reached every planet in Imperial space. Citizens of the Galactic Empire, this is your Emperor speaking. I have important news to share with you all. He paused, thinking about how to explain something that would sound impossible to most people. For 10,000 years, we have believed that the Galactic Empire was the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. We were wrong. Today, we have learned that there is another species, one that has been watching over us and protecting us for far longer than we have existed as an empire. Across the galaxy, billions of beings stopped what they were doing to listen to their emperor's words. This species, who call themselves humans, have technology that is so far beyond our understanding that it appears to be magic. But more importantly, they have wisdom that we lack. They have the power to conquer the entire galaxy, but they have chosen instead to be its protectors. The Emperor took a deep breath before continuing. The human fleet is now at our borders, and I believe they are here to offer us a choice. We can continue as we have been, ruling through strength and conquest, or we can learn from them and become something better. He closed the communication channel and turned to Grand Admiral Thex Mori. Grand Admiral, prepare my personal ship. I'm going to meet with the humans personally. Sir, that could be extremely dangerous. Emperor Zarthul smiled for the first time in weeks. Admiral, I think we're about to discover that the most dangerous thing we can do is continue to fear what we don't understand. As news of the human fleet spread across the galaxy, panic and wonder spread with it. The age of the Galactic Empire's supremacy was over. The age of learning was about to begin. Emperor Zarthul's personal shuttle approached the edge of Imperial space where the human fleet waited. The sight that greeted him was unlike anything he had ever imagined. Over 1,000 ships hung motionless in the void, each one completely different from the others. Some looked like flowing works of art, their hulls rippling with colors that shifted and changed. Others appeared to be made of crystalline structures that caught and reflected starlight in impossible ways. A few looked almost organic, as if they had grown rather than been built. But what struck the Emperor most was their silence. Despite their incredible variety and obvious power, the human ships simply waited with infinite patience. Your Majesty, came the voice of Captain Yormek, the Emperor's personal pilot. I'm receiving a communication from one of the human vessels. Put it through. A woman's voice filled the shuttle, warm and friendly, speaking perfect galactic standard. Emperor Zarthul, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Wanderer. Thank you for coming to meet us personally. That shows wisdom and courage. The Emperor recognized the voice from Admiral Kethvar's reports. Captain Chen, I must admit I'm surprised to find you here. I thought your ship had left Imperial space. It did, Your Majesty. But when we realized that our encounter with Admiral Kethvar had caused such concern throughout your empire, we decided it was time for a proper introduction. We? Captain, how many of you are there? There was a pause, and when Captain Chen spoke again, the Emperor could hear amusement in her voice. That's a complicated question, Your Majesty. Humanity has changed quite a bit over the past 50,000 years. Some of us exist as individuals like myself. Others have chosen to become collective consciousnesses. Some exist partially in physical reality and partially in dimensions you don't have words for yet. Emperor Zarthul felt his head spinning. I'm not sure I understand. Few species do it first, Your Majesty. Would you like to come aboard my ship? It might be easier to explain in person. The Emperor looked around his shuttle at his guards and advisors. They all looked terrified at the suggestion, but he had not come this far to turn back now. I accept your invitation. Excellent. We'll bring you over now. Before anyone could ask what that meant, the entire shuttle was suddenly somewhere else. Instead of floating in space near the human fleet, they were now inside a vast chamber filled with soft, natural light. The walls appeared to be made of living wood, and the Emperor could smell the scent of growing things. Welcome to the Wanderer, said a voice behind him. The Emperor turned and saw a woman who appeared to be in her 30s, with brown hair and kind eyes. She wore simple clothes that looked comfortable rather than formal. Nothing about her appearance suggested that she commanded technology beyond Imperial understanding. Captain Chen? Please call me Sarah, and don't worry about your security concerns. Your guards are welcome to keep their weapons, though I should mention they won't function properly on this ship. One of the Imperial guards immediately checked his plasma rifle. The power indicator showed full charge, but when he tried to activate it, nothing happened. The weapons aren't broken, Sarah explained casually. They just can't access the energy they need to function. This ship exists in a state of peace. Violence simply isn't possible here. Emperor Zarthul stared around the chamber in wonder. Despite being inside a spaceship, he could feel a gentle breeze and hear the sound of running water. How is this possible? Your Majesty, everything you see around you is a matter of applied consciousness. We learned long ago that reality is much more flexible than most species realize. When you truly understand the nature of existence, you can shape it to meet your needs. Sarah gestured for them to follow her down a corridor that seemed to stretch, much farther than the ship's external dimensions should have allowed. I know this is confusing, she continued as they walked. Your species thinks in terms of technology as tools that you build and use, but human technology is different. We don't build machines to alter reality. We alter our consciousness to work directly with reality itself. They entered another chamber, this one containing what looked like a garden. Trees grew in impossible spirals, their leaves shimmering with their own light. A stream flowed upward from floor to ceiling, defying gravity completely. This is beautiful, Emperor Zarthul said, genuinely amazed. Thank you. This ship is my home, so I wanted it to feel alive and welcoming. Captain, Sarah, I need to ask you something directly. Are you planning to conquer the Galactic Empire? Sarah stopped walking and turned to face him, her expression serious. Your Majesty, humanity gave up conquest 50,000 years ago. We learned that taking control of others doesn't make anyone stronger or happier. It just creates fear and resentment. Then what do you want? We want to help if you'll let us, but only if you truly want help. They continued walking until they reached a chamber that contained a massive window looking out at the stars. But as Emperor Zarthul watched, the view changed to show different star systems, as if the window was somehow looking at multiple places simultaneously. Your Majesty, can I show you something that might help you understand our perspective? Emperor Zarthul nodded, and the window's view changed to show the Galactic Empire from above. Millions of star systems connected by trade routes and communication networks, all centered on Imperium Prime. This is how your empire sees itself, Sarah said. A collection of systems and species united under Imperial rule. It's impressive, and it's brought order to a large part of the galaxy. The view changed, showing the same region of space but with additional elements visible. Energy patterns flowed between the stars, and the Emperor could see connections that had never appeared on any Imperial map. This is how we see the same region. Every species, every world, every individual consciousness connected to every other. 1. The Empire's political structure is just one layer of a much more complex reality. Emperor Zarthul stared at the display in fascination. Those energy patterns, what are they? Life, Your Majesty. Consciousness. Emotion. Love, fear, hope. Anger, curiosity, wisdom, all of it flowing constantly between every living being. Your empire manages the physical aspects of galactic civilization, but there are other aspects that are just as important. The display zoomed in to show Imperium Prime, and the Emperor could see streams of energy flowing to and from his homeworld like rivers of light. Every decision your empire makes affects these energy patterns. When you conquer a new species, fear spreads through the network. When you provide protection and stability, confidence grows. When you show mercy, compassion increases. Sarah turned to face the Emperor directly. For 10,000 years, humanity has been watching these patterns, intervening when necessary to prevent the total collapse of galactic civilization. We've stopped wars that would have destroyed the network entirely. We've prevented plagues that would have eliminated entire species. We've nudged asteroids away from inhabited worlds and provided inspiration to scientists working on crucial discoveries. You've been manipulating us. No, Your Majesty, we've been gardening. Sarah gestured to the window, which now showed a vast garden with millions of different types of plants growing together in complex harmony. A gardener doesn't control the plants in their garden. They provide water, nutrients, and protection from pests. They remove weeds that might choke out other growth. But each plant grows according to its own nature, Emperor Zarthul began to understand. You see civilizations as plants in a garden. We see all consciousness as part of a single living system. Your empire is one part of that system. A very important part, because you provide stability and structure. But you're not the whole system. The window view changed again, showing other regions of the galaxy that were not under Imperial control. The Emperor was surprised to see that they were just as complex and interconnected as Imperial space. There are other civilizations out there that have developed differently than yours, Sarah explained. Some focus on art and philosophy rather than conquest. Others have become purely exploratory, spending their time mapping the universe and cataloging its wonders. Still others have turned inward, developing spiritual and mental abilities that your scientists would find impossible. Why are you showing me this now? Sarah was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke, her voice carried a weight of sadness. Because the garden is in danger, Your Majesty. Your empire has become so successful that it's beginning to crowd out other forms of growth. Over the past 1,000 years, Imperial expansion has absorbed or destroyed dozens of unique civilizations. Each time that happens, the galaxy loses something precious and irreplaceable. Emperor Zarthul felt a chill. Are you saying the Empire is evil? No, Your Majesty. I'm saying the Empire is young. You're doing what young civilizations do. You're growing and expanding and trying to make the universe fit your vision of how it should work. That's natural and necessary. But eventually, young civilizations have to mature. And if we don't mature? Sarah gestured to the window, which now showed a barren landscape where nothing grew. Then the garden dies and everyone loses, including humanity. The Emperor stared at the desolate image, understanding the implications. What would maturity look like for the Empire? Sarah smiled, and the window view changed to show a vision that took the Emperor's breath away. It was the galaxy as he knew it, but transformed. Imperial worlds still existed, but they were connected to countless other civilizations in a vast network of cooperation and exchange. Different species contributed their unique strengths to shared projects. Art, science, philosophy, and technology flowed freely between worlds that had once been enemies. This is what the galaxy could become, Sarah said softly. Not a single empire ruling over everyone else, but a community of civilizations working together. Each species contributing what they do best, all of them growing stronger through cooperation instead of conquest. How would we even begin to create something like that? You start small, Your Majesty. You begin by choosing cooperation over conquest in just one situation, then another, then another. Eventually, it becomes a new way of thinking. Emperor Zarthul looked around the chamber with its impossible architecture and living gardens. And humanity would help us learn how to do this? If you want us to, yes, but it has to be your choice. We won't force change on anyone because forced change never lasts. The Emperor was quiet for a long time, thinking about everything he had seen and heard. Finally, he asked the question that had been bothering him since their conversation began. Sarah, why now? Why reveal yourselves after 50,000 years of hiding? Sarah's expression grew serious. Because we're not the only ones watching the galaxy, Your Majesty. There are other civilizations out there, older and less patient than humanity. Some of them view the current state of galactic civilization as a threat that needs to be eliminated. Emperor Zarthul felt ice form in his stomach. Are you saying we're about to be invaded? I'm saying that the galaxy is entering a new phase of development. How that phase develops will determine whether civilizations like yours survive and grow, or get swept away by forces they can't resist. The window view changed one final time, showing the deep void between galaxies. But this time the Emperor could see lights moving in that darkness. Countless lights heading toward their galaxy. The universe is much larger and more complex than any of us imagined, Your Majesty. Your empire is about to discover that it's not even close to being the most powerful civilization in existence. The question is, will you face that discovery as conquerors or as partners? Emperor Zarthul looked at the approaching lights and made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Sarah, I think it's time the Galactic Empire learned how to be part of something bigger than itself. Sarah smiled, and suddenly, the Emperor felt something he had never experienced before, a sense of connection to every living thing in the galaxy. "Welcome to the real universe, Your Majesty. Let's see what we can build together." Outside the Wanderer, the human fleet began to spread throughout Imperial space, not as conquerors, but as teachers. The age of galactic childhood was ending. The age of galactic maturity was about to begin.